Outlaw Rogues are ruthless fugitives who use agility and guile to stand toe-to-toe with their enemies, at least according to the talents. I'm going to show you everything you need to know to succeed in Season 1 of The War Within. It is going to be very beginner-friendly, but I do also want to say it is going to be in-depth for those veterans watching, so hopefully it's going to be good for everyone. I want to start off with the stat priority that we need in The War Within. Now, agility is, of course, our most predominantly important stat we're going to get. How do we get more agility? And therefore, secondary stats are higher and higher eye level. I actually have put the secondary stat priority here, but I don't want you to worry too much about this unless you're comparing the same level of gear. So you've got a boots at whatever level and a boots at whatever level. You only want to compare the secondary stats if they're the same level. A higher eye level is generally always going to be an upgrade. Looking at the secondary stats then, versatility is going to increase your damage done, any healing done, and also reduce damage taken. And that is the same across all specs in WoW, which I have covered, by the way. Critical strike, of course, gives us a chance to do more damage. Mastery then is main gauche. Your main hand attacks have a 30% chance to trigger an attack with your offhand that deals a higher and higher amount of damage depending on how much mastery you have, because we are using a weapon in each hand. Haste is actually going to increase our attack speed and energy regeneration. Energy regeneration is this here. This is our energy. We have 100 energy as a rogue as default, and that is what we're going to be using to we're spending to actually cast our spells and abilities. Now, we've gone through that. Let's take a quick look at the set bonus we are getting on our gear this season. And if you are a beginner and you don't know these spells, don't worry, I'll be covering them in full shortly. 2 set then of Kareshi Phantom's Bindings. Your Sinister Strike, Pistol Shot, and Ambush have a 20% chance to Ethereal Rampage, dealing 15% increased damage as Shadow. So basically, those abilities that I listed off have a chance to do an increased amount of damage as shadow damage. And then our 4 set, Ethereal Rampage, the ability I just mentioned, or the passive I just mentioned, should I say, additionally increases the damage of your next between the eyes by 6%, and that can stack up to 3 times. So 6, 12, 18% increased damage on our next between the eyes ability. And that is the set bonus. So now we're going to look through the utilities and some of the defensives, etc. that we have available to us as a rogue in The War Within. I do want to say these are not all of them. These are the ones that I think are the most important and that you should know about. And once you're more comfortable with your specialization, or just with rogue in general, I would say to just go through the spellbook here and just see what you have available. The same will be with the talents for the rogue side of the talent tree as well, as that is going to be the same on all 3 specs. So, on the left then, we have first, of course, stealth. We as a rogue can go into stealth whenever we want outside of combat. There are a few abilities I'll be showing you in the rotation where we can do it in combat as well, but for now we're sticking to what we can do whenever the hell we want. Now, of course, enemies will not be able to see us when we are in stealth, and we can sneak past most of them. Another interesting ability we have is our kick. This is an interrupt, and a lot of interrupts in the game are actually sometimes called kick because of this spell. It's kind of become the de facto name for interrupts. This is going to interrupt any spellcasting that your enemy is doing, and it's very, very important in both PvP and Mythic Plus. Generally in raiding it's less important, or you'll be using it less, but it is still good to know about. We then have Crimson Vial. Drink an alchemical concoction that heals you for 20% of your maximum health over 4 seconds. This can be seen as a defensive cooldown. However, it is only on a 30-second cooldown. And then we have Cold Blood on a 45-second cooldown. So it's another mini cooldown, if you will. Increases your critical strike chance of your next damaging ability by 100%, meaning you're going to get a guaranteed crit on your next attack. Over on the right then, we've got Evasion, increasing your dodge chance by 100%, and that is on a 2-minute cooldown, so that's a defensive ability. We have Sprint, increasing your movement speed by 100% for 12 seconds. You can also use this while you are stealthed, and it's a really great way to get from A to B in certain fights. We've also then got, speaking of stealth, Cloak of Shadows. This basically provides a moment of magic immunity, instantly removing all harmful spell effects. The cloak lingers, causing you to resist harmful spells for 5 seconds. And lastly, Facility, restoring 100 of your energy. And your mastery is going to be increased by 13.6% for 6 seconds. So energy is the main resource that you can see I've got here as a rogue. And of course, our mastery we spoke about in the stat priority section. And you have got 3 charges of this. Now, like I said, there's loads of other utilities you've got as a rogue. We have things like Shroud of Concealment, where basically you can give your entire party stealth as long as they stay within the shroud. Kidney Shot, Feint, Blind, Cheap Shot, Distract, Sap, Shadow Step, Tricks of the Trade, Pickpocket, Picklock, Kidney Shot. These are all utilities that you have available as a rogue, but as this is a beginner video, I'm not going to overwhelm you with what all of these do. These are the main ones that I would say you should know about. Really, you could argue that Shroud of Concealment is another one. That is another really fantastic one. If I do go into stealth, you can see your allies that are inside this huge circle will also be stealthed for the duration, and it is for 15 seconds. So that's a good way that your whole entire group can get past enemies undetected. But it is on a 6-minute cooldown, so you can't use it over and over in quick succession. Now for the actual rotation and how it all comes together. So before you go into combat or before the gates open, the first thing you want to do is go into stealth, of course, and make sure you apply your poisons. For your poisons, we're going to be applying Wound Poison and also Crippling Poison. Wound Poison, each strike has a chance to poison the enemy, inflicting instant nature damage and reducing how much healing they take. And Crippling, each strike has a chance to poison the enemy, slowing their movement speed. So whether you know Rogue or not, you may or may not know we have combo points which we generate and then spend. So we have energy, which is what we spend on using our abilities, and then they will generate combo points and then we spend them. So for the main combo point generators we're going to use in our rotation, we have Cheap Shot, Ambush, Sinister Strike, Pistol Shot, and Shiv. Cheap Shot can only be used from stealth, as can Ambush. And we have got this ability here, Vanish, which will let us go back into stealth in combat, but more on that shortly. So Cheap Shot awards 1 combo point and stuns the enemy for a few seconds. Ambush is really good. I love it. It generates 3 combo points every time it strikes. Ambush the target, dealing damage, has a chance to hit an additional time, making your next pistol shot half cost and double damage, which is this one here. So when you see that proc, that's going to proc from your ambush, making it do double damage and half the cost. Sinister Strike is a bit simpler. Viciously Strike, causing damage, has a chance to hit an additional time, again making your pistol shot half cost double damage, awards 1 combo point every time it strikes. And then we have Pistol Shot. Draw a concealed pistol and shoot them, dealing damage and reducing the target's movement speed and reducing the target's damage done to you by 5% for 6 seconds. So especially when you get procs, use this because it isn't just doing damage. As you can see, it is doing a few other things as well to actually help reduce damage done to you. And then we have Shiv, which actually does kind of the opposite. Attack with your offhand, dealing damage, dispelling all enrage effects, and applying a concentrated form of your crippling poison, reducing their movement speed. So this is actually going to reduce the target's movement speed, as well as awarding 1 combo point. So that is how we're going to generate our combo points, but how are we going to spend them? Well, we've got Kidney Shot, a finishing move that will stun them for the longer, the more combo points you use. We've got Between the Eyes, finishing move that deals damage with your pistol, increasing your critical strike chance by 20%. And critical strikes with the ability deal 4 times normal damage. So if you use it at the full 7 points, it will last for 21 seconds. Try and keep this up as much as you possibly can to get that increased effect of all your other abilities. And it's the same with Slice and Dice. 7 points is 48 seconds on this one, meaning it can last a really long time. And this is going to increase your attack speed by 50%, so half of double. It's going to increase your attack speed by 50%. And again, 7 points is at 48 seconds, so you can get really long times on that incredible attack speed increase with Slice and Dice. And lastly, we have Dispatch. If you see here, it says one-handed melee weapon. It's because I'm using double daggers at the moment. Oops, my bad. Finishing move that dispatches the enemy dealing damage per combo point. And that's like the main one you're going to be using. You know, if you're not using kidney shot to stun them, and you're not getting up between the eyes or slice and dice if they're already up, then you're going to be using dispatch as your main finisher to, finish off that enemy. We do have Roll the Bones, which you can use just on cooldown every 45 seconds. It's just going to give you random buffs. Like here, we have here True Bearing, finishing moves reduce the remaining cooldown of many of your abilities, etc., etc. It's going to give loads of different combat enhancements, Roll the Bones, so just use it on cooldown. Now, we've got a lot of utilities at our disposal as a Outlaw Rogue. Sap incapacitates a target not in combat for a minute. You can use this when you go in to, you go in stealth, and then you can sap maybe the healer, etc., and then focus on somebody else. We've got Feint, which will reduce damage from all area of effect damage. So if they try and AoE you down, use your Feint. Meanwhile, Evasion is going to double your dodge chance. Well, not double it. I keep saying double and halves. It's going to increase your dodge chance by 100%. Crimson Vial heals you for 20% of max health over a few seconds. Pretty good there. Kick is your interrupt. Very simple. Cloak of Shadows is another amazing one. Provides a moment of magic immunity, instantly removing all harmful effects, and will actually help you resist harmful spells for 5 seconds. Sprint is one of my favorites. We can use it while stealthed. Massively increases your movement speed, so you can get out of dodge when things go badly. And then you can also use Vanish, allowing you to vanish from sight, entering stealth while in combat. For the first 3 seconds after vanishing, damage and harmful effects received will not break your stealth at all. And then we have Adrenaline Rush, a magnificent combat cooldown. Increases your energy regeneration rate by 50%, increases your maximum energy and your attack speed. And you can use this to go into a sort of burst period as well. And that really is it for sort of the main combo point generators, the spenders, and the cooldowns and utilities that we have at our disposal. It's really not that complex for Outlaw. We are going with Fatebound. Going to be talking through that in a bit more detail in a minute. For the PvP talents you're going to be taking, I like to go with Enduring Brawler. Every 3 seconds you maintain in combat, gain a % chance per Sinister Strike to hit an additional time. Now remember, when it does hit additional times, you're going to be getting more combo points, meaning you can get through those finishers even quicker. I also like Dismantle. It's another ability we can get on a 45-second cooldown, disarming the enemy, preventing the use of any weapons or shield for 5 seconds. If they have already pulled the trigger on their execute or burst phase, imagine that you then disarm them, completely rendering that phase. If they've already, they've just used Bloodlust, or, they've gone into the execute phase, etc. And you've just completely stopped that in its tracks. It can be really, really amazing. Another one that I love, again, a similar sort of situation if they go into their burst phase, etc., something like that. We can use Smoke Bomb on a 3-minute cooldown, creates a cloud of fixed smoke in an 8-yard radius around the rogue. Enemies are unable to target into or out of the smoke cloud, which I think, again, is a way of just stopping them in their tracks. We can use it on demand, meaning we can really be quite careful about when we use it. And that pretty much is the main rotation that we're going to be using for Outlaw Rogue. So for this Outlaw build, we are going to be looking at the Fatebound hero talents. That is what we're choosing. If you are a beginner, as I always say, or even if you aren't, then don't get too overwhelmed with these, because I have already included all of this in the rotation I've shown you. But as hero talents are new, I think it's good to take a bit of a deeper look than we usually would with the talents here. So Fatebound is basically working around flipping coins. It's quite interesting. I quite like it. Flip a Fatebound coin each time a finishing move consumes 5 or more combo points. Heads increases the damage of your attacks, and tails will just do some damage to your target. For each time the same face is flipped in a row, so if you get heads and then heads again, for example, heads will increase damage by an additional 2%, and tails increases the damage it will do by 10%. So that's quite nice. And it gets even nicer later. Tempted Fate, you have a chance equal to a critical strike chance to absorb some damage taken. Cool. Sinister Strike generates an additional combo point when it strikes an additional time. Lovely. Quicker rotation there. Damage dealt when your Fatebound coin flips tails is increased by 30 if there are no other enemies. If you're doing single target, it's going to do more damage. Mean Streak, Fatebound coins flipped by dispatch multiple times in a row are much more likely to match the same face as the last flip. and that's going to be important for another one soon. Activating Adrenaline Rush causes your next Fatebound coin flip to land on its edge, counting as both heads and tails, which is really nice. Then we've got Destiny Defined, where Sinister Strike has a 5% increased chance to strike an additional time, and your Fatebound coins flipped have an additional chance to match the same face as the last flip again. So lots of same faces here. Death Survival, where Grappling Hook can be used with a cooldown. Use a second time within 3 seconds with no cooldown. Lovely. Fate Entwined. Fate Entwined duplicates 30% of dispatch critical damage as cosmic to 2 additional nearby enemies. Good for multi-target. If there are, however, no other nearby targets, it will all go to your single target. Your first Fatebound flip after breaking stealth flips 2 coins that are guaranteed to match the same face as well. So when you come out of stealth, we also get some same face flippers. And then Fateful Ending. This is why the same face flippers are so important. When your Fatebound flips the same face for the 7th time in a row, keep the lucky coin to gain 7% agility. That's actually going to last until you've been out of combat for 10 seconds. If you already have a lucky coin, it's going to do a load of damage to target instead, which is crazy. So you kind of want to get loads of same face coin flips, you know, when you get into combat to get that huge agility uptick. But basically, we're flipping heads, we're flipping tails, we're trying to get the same face in as many times of a row as possible to maximize the benefits there. And that's pretty much it for Fatebound. It's really cool. It's really unique. I really like it. Hopefully you guys too, as that is obviously, you know, the build we are playing in this guide. Now looking at the consumables and enchants, etc. we're using as a rogue, the first thing you may notice is that we now, from the weekly Great Vault, have a new way of getting gem sockets for our gear. We can add these with the Nerubian Gem Weaver on our head, waist, and wrist. It's not on this picture. And we can add 2 gem sockets to our neck and both rings now, rather than in the previous expansion where it was just 3 sockets on your neck. And that is with a magnificent jeweler's setting. So you can see 2 on the neck, 2 on the ring, and 2 on the other ring. We're going with Chant of Winged Grace on your cloak enchant, which gives avoidance and removes some fall damage. Crystalline Radiance gives agility. Armored Leech gives leech. Stormbound Armor Kit actually gives agility on the legs. Scout's March gives movement speed. I think it's 250. Mastery on the rings, and then Authority of the Depths on both of your weapons. Authority of the Depths basically means when you're damaging foes, you have a chance to do this big old dark, shadowy damage, and that can deepen, as they like to call it, on the tooltip, which I think that just means it can stack 3 times, which is pretty nice. Then looking at the actual consumables we're using, Alchemical Chaos is the best for DPS, but most people are probably going to go with versatility for a more rounded out increase in survivability and damage. Alchemical Chaos will rotate your secondary stats. It'll add 7,000 to 1 secondary stat while taking off 600 of the other 2. But what's interesting, and that'll rotate for however long, Tempered Potion will actually add, when you use a potion, that will add to the secondary stats that you're not getting from your flask. So it's really interesting how that works. And it will still do the same thing if you use the versatility one, just it won't give versatility, it'll give the others. Healing Potion is called the Algari Healing Potion. Iron Claw Whetstone adds attack power. It's like 500 attack power for an hour on your weapon oil. If you're using an Augment Rune, it's called the Crystallized Augment Rune. And then we're using Culminating Blasphemites on our gems. An Onyx is generally going to be the best one, but you do want to use different coloured gems, apart from Amber, to get the most effect out of the Blasphemite. So basically, you can use a Ruby, Sapphire, an Emerald, and an Onyx. I think that's the right ones. And what it does is, so the Blasphemite gives primary stat, so agility, but it also gives 0.15% critical strike effect increase per different colored gem that you're wearing. Hence why you want to wear an Onyx, a Sapphire, a Ruby, and an Emerald, and then the rest of them you can use for whatever you want to get the full effect from your epic gem. Thank you so much for watching this guide. I hope it was really useful for you in The War Within Season 1, whether it was for Mythic Plus or raiding. If you do have any questions, I'll be happy to help. My Patreon is in the description below, and that is where you can find my LVUI profiles, which I'll show you in a second. And also, I'm putting together a huge macro list for every single spec that's going to be really useful for you in The War Within as well. I am doing all classes and specs for the War Within, so if you are new to the channel, then please do click this playlist here to check out what else I have, which is all of them. There will also be PvP guides on this channel as well for War Within Season 1, so make sure to look out for that. This here is the UI that I was referring to. As you can see, we've got target frames, etc., left and right, and raid frames go in the middle here, and then weak auras in the middle with an action bar down here. Chat is behind where my camera is. Minimap and details, etc., are here on the right. All of the plater profiles, the voodoo, the LVY, etc., details profile has all been made by me. And again, you can get this on my Patreon should you like it.